Good day, everyone. Today I am going to discuss the market integration. First, what is market integration? Market integration is a term that is used to identify a phenomenon in which markets of goods and services that are somehow related to one another being to experience similar patterns of increase or decrease in terms of the prices of those products. The term also can be referred to a situation in which the prices of relative goods and services sold in a defined geographical location also begin to move in some sort of similar pattern to one another. At times, the integration may be intentional, with the government implementing certain strategies as a way to control the directions of the economy. At other times, the integrating of the markets may be due to factors such as shifts in supply and demand that have a spillover effect on several markets. It means that market integration is a phenomenon which markets have the same pattern of increase or decrease in terms of the prices of the products or services offered. Economy is one of the greatest impact on society. Economy is the social institution that organizes all production, consumption, and trade of goods in the society. There are many ways in which products can be made and exchanged and used. Think about capitalism and socialism. These economic systems and the economic revolution that created them shape the way people live their lives. Economic systems vary from one society to another, but in any given economy, production typically splits into three sectors, and these are: first is the primary sector, which extracts raw materials from natural environment. Farmers and miners fit well in this sector. Second is the secondary sector, gains the raw materials and transform them into manufactured goods. For example, someone from the primary sector extracts oil from the earth, then someone from the secondary sector refines the petroleum to gasoline. Third and last sector is the tertiary sector. Involves service rather than goods. It offers service by doing things rather than making things. Primary sector includes farmers, which farmers plant grains and harvest grains. Then secondary sector, which transform the grains into rice. Then tertiary sector, the service. Let's proceed to the international financial institutions. Strength of a more powerful economy brings greater effects in the other countries. In the same manner, crises and weaker economies have less effect in the other countries. There are different financial institutions and economic organization that made countries even closer together, and these are the following. First, the Bretton Woods system. The major economies in the world had suffered because of the World War I, the Great Depression in 1930s, and the World War II. In general, the Bretton Woods system have 5 key elements, and these are: first K element, the expression of currency in terms of gold or gold value to establish a par value. Second, the officially monetary authority in each country would agree to its own currency for those of the other countries at the establishment exchange rates, plus or minus a 1% margin. Third, the establishment of an overseer to these exchange rates, thus the International Monetary Fund or the IMF was founded. Fourth, eliminating restrictions on the currencies of member states in the international trade. And last one, US dollar became the global currency. The second institution or organization is the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade or GATT and the World Trade Organizations or the WTO. According to PET 2003, global trade and finance was greatly affected by the Bretton Woods and was the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade or GATT that was established in 1947. So GATT is a forum for the meeting of representatives from 23 member countries. It focused on the trade goods through multinational trade agreements conducted in many rounds for negotiation. However, it was out of Uruguay round in 1986 to 1993 that an agreement was reached to create the World Trade Organization. WTO headquarters is located in Geneva, Switzerland with 152 member states as of 2008. Unlike GATT, WTO is an independent multilateral organization that became responsible for trade services, non-tariff related barriers to trade, and other broader areas of the trade liberalization. The general idea where the WTO is based was on neoliberalism. This means that by reducing or eliminating barriers, all nations will benefit. There are significant criticisms to WTO. One is that trade barrier created by developed countries cannot be countered enough by WTO, especially in agriculture. Grain prices increased and food riots occurred in many member states of WTO like Mexico, Egypt, and Indonesia in 2008. Aside from that issues in agricultural sector, decision-making processes were heavily influenced by larger trading powers in the so-called green room, while excluding smaller powers in meetings. Lastly, Redser also pointed out that the International Non-Government Organization or the INGOs are not involved, leading to the staging of regular protest and demonstration against the WTO. Third institution or organization is the International Monetary Fund or the IMF and the World Bank. IMF and World Bank were founded after the World War II. Their establishment was mainly because of peace advocacy after the war. IMF's main goal was to help countries which were in trouble at the time and who could not obtain money by any means. Because of the sad World War II, many countries were in trouble because at that time they could not obtain any money to sustain their economy and their daily living. So that is why IMF's main goal was to help those countries. Another, World Bank also have main goals and it revolved around the eradication of poverty and it funded specific projects that helped reach their goals, especially in poor countries. So, the World Bank goals also is the same of the IMF's goal, but it all about the eradication of poverty, which this institution help those poor countries to develop or to reach their dreams. Unfortunately, the reputation of these institutions have been dwindling, mainly due to practices such as landing the corrupt governments or even dictators and imposing ineffective austerity measures to get their money back. The fourth institution or Organization is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or the OPEC, and the European Union. The most encompassing club of the richest countries in the world is the Organization for Economic Cooperative and Development, with 35 member states as of 2016, with Latvia as its latest member. In 1960, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or the OPEC, was originally comprised of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Iran, and Venezuela. OPEC was formed because member countries wanted to increase the price of oil, which in the past have relatively low price and had failed in keeping up with inflation. The European Union, in the other hand, is made up of 28 member states. Next, financial institution or organization is the North America Free Trade Agreement, or the NAFTA. North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, is a trade pact between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, created on January 1, 1994, when Mexico joined the two other nations. It was first created in 1989 with only Canada and the United States as a trading partners. NAFTA helps in developing and expanding world trade by broadening international cooperation. It also aims to increase cooperation for improving working conditions in North America by reducing barriers to trade as it expands the market of the three countries. One can argue that NAFTA was to blame for job losses and wage stagnation in the United States because competition from Mexican firms had forced many U.S. firms to relocate to Mexico, and this is called outsourcing. Generally, NAFTA has positive and negative consequences. It lowered price by removing tariffs, opened up new opportunities for small and medium-sized business to establish a name for itself, quadrupled trade between the three countries, and created 5 million US jobs. Some of the negative effects, however, include excessive pollution, loss of more than 682,000 manufacturing jobs, exploitation of workers in Mexico, and moving Mexican farmers out of business. The history of global market integration. Before the rise of today's modern economy, people only produce for their family. Nowadays, economy demands the different sectors to work together in order to produce, distribute, and exchange products and services. As what I have mentioned earlier, that these sectors are the three different sectors of the economy, and these are the primary sector, the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. The agricultural revolution and industrial revolution. The first economic change was the agricultural revolution. Farming helped societies build surpluses, meaning not everyone had to spend their time producing for food. This, in return, led to major developments like permanent settlements, trade networks, and population growth. The second economic revolution is the Industrial Revolution of the 18th. With the rise of industry came new economic tools like steam engines, manufacturing, mass production. Factories popped up and changed how work functioned. Overall, productivity went up, standards of living rose, and people had access to a wider variety of goods due to mass production. However, Every economic revolution comes with economic casualties. 19th century industrialists were known as robber barons, meaning with more productivity came greater wealth, but also greater economic inequality. Another economic events are the capitalism and socialism. There were two competing economic models that sprang up around the time of the Industrial Revolution, as economic capital became more and more important to the production of goods. These were capitalism and socialism. First, let us all tackle the capitalism. So, capitalism is a system in which all natural resources and means of production are privately owned. It emphasizes profit maximization and competition as the main drivers of efficiency. This is what economist Adam Smith in 1770s called the invisible hand of the market. The idea is that if one leaves a capitalist economy alone, consumers will regulate things themselves, selecting goods and services that provide the best value. There are many sectors where a hands-off approach can lead to what economists call market failure, where an unregulated market ends up allocating goods and a service inefficiently. An example of this is the monopoly. In socialist system, the means of production are under collective ownership. It rejects capitalism's private property and hand-off approaches. Instead, in socialism, property is owned by the government and allocated to all citizens, not only those with the money to afford. Socialism is also a competing economic models in economy, and socialism emphasizes collective goals, expecting everyone to work for the common good and placing a higher value on meeting everyone's basic needs than an individual's profit. Government plays an even larger role in socialism. When Karl Marx first wrote about socialism, he viewed it as a stepping stage towards communism, a political and economic system in which all members of a society are socially equal. Next economic event is the information revolution. Technology has reduced the role of human labor and shifted it from a manufacturing based economy to one that is based on service work and the production of ideas rather than goods. Sociologists have a way of distinguishing between types of jobs, which is based more on the social status and compensation that come with them. These are the primary labor market and the secondary labor market. First, let's tackle the primary labor market. This includes jobs that provide many benefits to workers, like high incomes, job security, health insurance, and retirement packages. These are white collar professions like doctors, accountants, and engineers. Second is the secondary labor market. These jobs provide fewer benefits and include lower skilled jobs and lower level service sector jobs. Nowadays, a key part of both our economic and political landscape is corporation. Corporations are defined as organizations that exist as legal entities and have liabilities that are separate from its members. Global corporations. The increase in international trade has both created and been supported by international regulatory groups. like WTO and translational trade agreements like NAFTA. Without international trade, there would be no need for international regulatory groups. Without the international regulatory groups, international trade at the current massive scale would be impractical. The trade regulatory groups and agreements regulate the flow of goods and services between countries. They reduce tariffs, which are taxes on imports, and make customs procedures easier. The companies that extend beyond the borders of one country is called multinational or transnational corporations, or MNCs or TNCs. They are also referred to as global corporations. Transnational corporations or have a significant role in the global economy. They influence the economy and politics by donating money to specific political campaigns on lobbyist. Global corporations often locate their factories in countries which can provide the cheapest labor in order to save up for expenses in the making of a product. As a result, developing nations will provide incentives like tax-free trade zones or cheap labor. It also makes nations around the world more interdependent, with, which minimizes the potential for conflict. There seems to be a lot of negative effects of globalization from transnational corporations. Trade does promote the self-interested agendas and corporation and give them autonomy. The global corporations also influence politics and allow workers to be exploited. On the other side, there were also positive effects such as better allocation of resources, lower prices for products, and more employment worldwide, and higher product output. So, even if there are negative effects of global cooperation to our worldwide economy, there were also positive effects, and these positive effects have big impact to the worldwide economy. Diffusion is the ideas and practices spread from where they were are they Diffusion is the ideas and practices spread from where they are well known and frequently apparent to places where they are new and not often observed. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.